What is up, 156 Nation? We are back to you, bringing you guys another episode of the First and 56 podcast. I am your host today, Anthony Gulick. I am with one of my co-hosts, Marcus Martin. No Rondo Griffin with us today. Our co-host, he's caught up in his busy life, but, we're going to hold it down for him. Last time it was me and Rondo. This time it's me and Marcus, and, next episode it's going to be all three of us. So, we got a good little mix of opinions. I think it's going to be a really fun episode today because, Marcus, I feel like has a different opinion than both me and Rondo do. Me and Rondo tend to be on the same page sometimes, but, I like the mix of opinions here. So obviously, just going to jump right into it. Marcus, before I jump into our first topic, how do you think, you've been feeling about the state of the franchise within the past month? A lot of people have been getting, a lot like real emotional stuff like that, but it's been a crazy month of March with free agency and everything. So how have you been feeling about the Colts lately?
Been pretty much taking it easy, man. Just kind of just trying to sit back and let Chris Ballard, do his work. I really do. There's going to be a big splash coming. I really do think, he's going to bring in a few guys. I'm just trying to be on the patient side right now. I know there's a lot of Colts fans out there that's really been bashing, Chris on Twitter and because he's not bringing in top free agents and stuff like that. I feel like it's got to be a mutual marriage when it's coming to free agency. Man, there's guys that may want to come to Indy, and there's guys that don't want to come to Indy. It's not like he's not offering these guys, top dollar or whatever, but it's just the fact that, do you want to come to Indy or don't you want to come to Indy? And that's basically what it boils down to. So patience is the key. I think, from my perspective, we brought all our guys back. If you take a look at the season last year, if AR plays every game, who's to say, what our record's going to be? You know what I'm saying? So AR's healthy. Um, we brought all of our guys back. We missing one piece on defense. I'm really hoping Blackman. I'm really hoping they can get something done with him within the next week or two. But I like Juju. I like Jalen Jones. I like the back end of the defense right now. I mean, they're young, but they're only going to get better. So patience, Colts fans, patience.
I think I'm pretty much on board with you. A lot of people have been seeing me on Twitter lately. I think Colts Nation lately has been very divided, and this is the first time I've ever seen the fan base very, very divided. Usually, Twitter is usually a pretty positive place, but lately it's been pretty crazy because there's been a lot of mixed opinions about what should be going on. But Marcus, I want to get your opinion after I state mine. We're going to jump into our first topic here, which is bringing our guys back, just like you said. And who was your like your happiest like signing that for the guy that you brought back? Like out of all needs, Pittman obviously was great, but the guy that I was happiest that we brought back was Grover Stewart. I feel like Grover Stewart, the numbers spoke for themselves when he wasn't playing due to that suspension. We were just getting gashed on the ground. And I think the Raekwon Davis signing from Miami, that was cool. You can't ever have enough defensive linemen, especially with these guys are getting older. Buckner and Grover, they're both going to be late 20s, early 30s by the time both of these contracts are up. So Raekwon Davis, I feel like was a nice signing, but I feel like you just had to bring Grover Stewart back because, like I said, you just getting gashed on the ground. So who is your biggest need, or who are you happiest that we brought back? Because we brought back, I want to say like 8 or 9 of our guys.
I'm gonna say two guys. I'm gonna go with the punter first of all. Rodrigo has been excellent last year. I know he started off a little bit rusty, coming back off that torn Achilles from last year or year before. Um, But I think that was a big sign to bring the punter back. I mean, and can you hear me now?
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Okay. Kenny Moore was another one that I think that um, was a big signing to bring back. And we really didn't pay a whole lot of money for him either for him to come back. Um, that was huge because he is the anchor of that back end, and he can mold those young guys and motivate them to play better, to play faster, to play harder. Um, so, um, like I said, the punter and Kenny Moore was my one and two most important players. The Raekwon Davis, I love that because now you can give Buckner rest, and we can go with the 1-2 punch with Grover and Raekwon, maybe first and second down, and then you can bring Buckner in on that third down pass rush. Keep him healthy, keep him fresh. Last year he played a little bit beat up. The year before that he played a little bit beat up. I think this year you'll see a much better, healthier Buckner this year with the addition of Raekwon Davis.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. People, they were just hating on the signing, and once again, I don't get it. I mean, even speaking, if you want to give Buckner his full amount of snaps, when he was not in on those, say, second down with Taven Bryan in there, and Taven Bryan wasn't great. That's the only signing of this free agency where I was kind of like, ugh, what did he do to like earn a second contract with the Colts? Because I wasn't really a fan of how Taven Bryan played. I don't think really anybody was. But there's also something to note here. We also have a new defensive line coach, and this guy, I was doing some more research on him. His name's Charlie Partridge from the University of Pittsburgh. Before Pittsburgh, he was at Wisconsin, so he coached J.J. Watt. And he molded this kid Cansey, who got drafted in the first round from Pittsburgh last year to Tampa Bay, and people were calling him the next Aaron Donald. So I think that it's really beneficial to have this guy in here as well. This is an experienced guy. I'm not going to hate on Nate Ollie at all. Nate Ollie, he led us to, I want to say we're say fourth or fifth in sacks last year with a franchise record in sacks. But he's a younger guy. This guy Charlie Partridge. He's a coach with more experience under his belt. I'm not going to say if it matters or not, but he's been around Hall of Famers coming through his college program. So it's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And I was watching some interviews with him lately, and he just said he knows his guys are elite. DeForest Buckner's an elite player, but he's just going to give him a little tips and tricks to get him even more production. And great players like him love to get coached. So it's going to be interesting to see how everything pans out. But back to, what you said earlier, before we got to this point about the general manager, Chris Ballard, everybody's been calling him to get fired. And, I'm just rolling my eyes just like everybody else. We get a lot of Ballard haters on this app. Actually, there's a lot, and not even the app, just, the Colts world as well. Even a lot of content creators, they're calling him to get fired just because of the lack of urgency. But back what you said earlier about Anthony Richardson not playing. We won 9 games. Anthony Richardson didn't play. Let's just, you look at other teams. The first one that comes to mind is Dallas Cowboys, right? I want to say they won, let's just say 12 or 13 games last year, and they were the NFC East division champion. They let go like all of their guys in the trenches. Like they did not sign anybody, like not even just the trenches. They let Tony Pollard go. They let their star running back go, even though he had a down year. You don't have a running back anymore. They let Tyron Smith go, who's their left tackle. You let go all of our defensive tackles. You let go of Gallimore, Hankins and the other guy, I forgot his last name. But like you let go of all of your guys, you let go of your center. He went with Dan Quinn to Washington. Like these are important players on their team. So who's to say with all these guys missing that you're going to win 13 games again? You know what I mean? You bring back all these guys for the Colts. I feel like this already puts you in the 9-win range because you have your guys back. AR is the guy that takes you from 9 to 12 or 9 to 11. Like you're not guaranteed anything in the NFL these days. I mean, we learned that in 2022. I mean, we won 9 games with Wentz. Sure, I mean, Wentz didn't play great, but we still won 9 games. You add Matt Ryan to the mix, and people all of a sudden are like, oh, yeah, we're going to win 10, 11 games. I was one included, and I fully own up to that. But I figured, we would win, say, 10 or 11 games that year. We didn't. We won 4 games after the whole coaching fiasco and everything. So wins aren't really guaranteed, which is why I love that we brought back our guys. I really love that. I mean, Baltimore's another team, man. They lost their guard, they lost Patrick Queen, they lost a lot of guys. So who's to say Baltimore's going to win 13 games with Joe Burrow coming back, and the Steelers just loaded up, and the Browns are loading up too with Watson and Chubb coming back. So people are hating that we aren't going after all these outside guys. We only signed Raekwon Davis from the outside. But I personally love that we brought back our own guys. So, are you all aboard the Fire Ballard train if this doesn't work out? Or, how do you like his approach to free agency?
I think it's been kind of slow compared to what we're used to. But I think Ballard's done a decent job.
Me too.
I think he's picked the right guys. He's picked the right guys in the locker room. He's picked the guys who's buying into the system. And by him bringing back all of those players, that sends a message to the locker room. That sends a message saying, look, Chris Ballard is going to take care of us as long as we perform. As long as we perform the way that we're supposed to perform, he's going to bring us back. He's going to give us a contract. That right there molds a locker room. That brings everybody together. That's just like a family now. You know what I'm saying? And everybody feels that way. So that way, I'm my brother's keeper in the locker room. I got your back. You got my back. You know what I'm saying? And that's gonna show on the field this year. I really, really do, honestly, truly believe that it's going to show on the field, especially on defense. Especially on defense. I think you'll see those young guys, Juju, Jalen, hopefully, like I said, we can get Blackman back, Kenny Moore. You'll see those guys locking down receivers, balling out. I know I've seen talks about Houston and Tennessee now, getting these little offensive weapons and thinking they're going to come into Indy and do something. You're not. We brought all of our guys back. Everybody's playing. It's going to be. I'm not saying we're Super Bowl. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying with the continuity that we have in the locker room and I'm my brother's keeper type of mentality, those guys are going to play, and that defense is going to play. I'm probably looking defense to be at least in the top 10. And I mean, if you look last year, we only giving up 200 and something yards a game in the passing game with rookies in the back end. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking forward to at least being in the top 10 in that too this year. These guys, they see this. They get that continuity, and then like I said, if you take care of the locker room, you take care of the guys in the locker room, they'll take care of everything out on the field. And I truly believe that. So with that being said, Chris Ballard, he's done a hell of a job. To me, I think we won the free agency, to be honest with you, because we brought all of our guys back. We brought guys that we won 9 games with back, even without AR. You know what I'm saying? So you bringing those guys back, that just makes this coming season a little bit more better. I know a lot of people, we want more, we won't stand up guys or whatever. Not everybody fits in the locker room.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Not everybody, not every big name free agent fits in the locker room. You know what I'm saying? So you don't want to have that kind of mentality. You know, you bring the guys that they're 4 or 5, 3, 4 years together, and they're only going to get better. They're only going to get better. So I think Chris is doing a good job. I think, I mean, there's some splashes that I probably, would have liked to see. But, like I said, it's a business, and you don't know what goes on behind closed doors, whether those guys want to come to Indy or did Chris Ballard offer them, more money or whatever. We don't know that. But we just automatically assume that Chris Ballard doesn't want to give up the paycheck. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
So, we can't jump, the gun because we don't know what goes on behind closed doors in negotiations. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, 9 times out of the 10, it's not Chris Ballard, it's the player.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, especially with the Hunter signing to Houston, people found out that we're talking to him. Oh, great, let's sign him. Then he goes to Houston, 2 for $50 or something crazy like that, which in my opinion, for an aging pass rusher like that, $25 million a year is a little steep. But it came out that the Colts offered him even more money than that. And he went to Houston because he's from Houston. He took a hometown discount. And there's no state tax there, so he gets all of his money. But at the same time, though, just because we're not signing people, just like you said, people are already going, oh my God, Ballard's such a cheapskate. He doesn't want to pay anybody. I'm not saying this is an A+ free agency, because I still feel like there's room that needs to be done. Mm-hmm. But I'm also not calling for the guy to get fired because we brought back our best players.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, people, it just astonished me from the amount of people that just think it's easy to replace Michael Pittman Jr. They just think it's easy. People thought that he was going to hit the open market and then you just draft a receiver in the first round. It doesn't work like that. Ask Tennessee how that worked with A.J. Brown. It right. doesn't work like that. If it was that easy, they would have, like that kid that they drafted in the first round, Burks, he would have been an all-pro by now. You know what I mean? Right. But instead, he has like 200 or 300 yards a year. He's not, what they hoped he would be. But it's not easy. You can't just guarantee these guys are going to be good. But on the contrary, I want to talk about this. I've been waiting to talk about this for so long. We're going to get into the L'Jarius Sneed drama. I think that me and you, in our group chat that we have with Rondo, I think we're all on board with, if the deal gets done, great. Sneed's a great corner. If you end up paying him a lot of money, it is what it is. But if it doesn't get done, whatever, So once the news broke that he went to Tennessee, I think a lot of Colts fans were in their feelings, not only because, he got traded to a division rival, but they found out that he's getting paid $19 million a year. In my opinion, this is just my opinion now, you can't pay almost $20 million a year somebody who's in the top 10 who doesn't have any Pro Bowls or All Pros on his resume. This is my opinion, because the Pro Bowls and the All Pros, if I was an agent, that's what I'm using to drive up his price. The numbers and the analytics will speak for themselves, which is good. Sneed was a lockdown corner. He's a really good player. I'm not saying he's not a good player, but if I was his agent, and they say, here's $18 million a year, I'll say, hey, this guy's been in the Pro Bowl twice. This guy's been All-Pro first team once. He's been All-Pro second team once. That's what's going to drive up his price for me. Mm-hmm. He's never done that. His teammate, Trent McDuffie, the best corner on his team, did that. L'Jarius Sneed, he hasn't had the accolades yet. But my main argument is this, Marcus. 2 points. Number one is, this is a quarterback, offensive line, and receiver-heavy draft, and we're sitting at 15. It is rare that you're going to get the best corner in the draft by sitting there at 15. Most people in other drafts, you got to take a corner in the top 5. Patrick Surtain, who's one of the best players in the NFL, he was a top 10 pick. You don't have to do that this year because there's most likely going to be 4 quarterbacks and 4 receivers and say 2 or 3 tackles that go in the top 15 before us. There's going to be a war over the quarterbacks. There's going to be a war over the receivers. There's going to be 3 tackles, just like I said. Brock Bowers is probably going to go before us because the Jets signed a tackle. That's probably going to be Brock Bowers' territory there. Just sitting there at 15, getting without a corner taken off the board, that is insane to me. And in my opinion, why go out and trade for your L'Jarius Sneed or a Jair Alexander? Because we were in talks with, not in talks, but they were, potential landing spot if he didn't resign. Why go out and trade for Jair Alexander, a first-round corner, when you can draft your own? Because we haven't done that. We've actually never drafted a first-round corner in Chris Ballard's tenure. We've drafted a safety, which was Malik Hooker, but we've never drafted a first-round corner. So I think that would be a great move. And second off, main part of my argument, it doesn't always work with these free agents. The Chargers brought in J.C. Jackson a couple years ago. They gave him a huge contract. Everybody was saying our corner problems are fixed. They gave him a big contract. Everybody said it was a great move. Media said A-plus signing. He turned out to not be very good. The Chargers are still paying him right now, and he's out of the league. And they drafted a guy, Asante Samuel, who is better than him anyways.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just saying, you can't, Tennessee just got Sneed. Who's to say he's going to be good for Tennessee?
Right.
Who's to say that? The only player, from my perspective, the only player who switched teams and been a good corner has been Jalen Ramsey. Free agent corners, when they go to different teams, they usually play well, but then they still have their rough spots. Stephon Gilmore was great for us, but he still got mossed by Terry McLaurin and right by the end zone. I love that, but I love that he was great for us. But he still had his moments where he was getting cooked sometimes, which is why he's a free agent and Chris Ballard probably hasn't signed him yet because there were still some rough spots. But my perspective is if you draft a guy, you can mold him. He gets his run with Jones, Brent, and Flowers, and also you just can't guarantee these guys are going to be good. So I just wanted to get your whole assessment of the situation and what's your philosophy, if it's any different than mine on the defensive backs route.
How long has Sneed been in the league?
I want to say 3 or 4 years. I think 4 years.
3 or 4 years. What was it that 2 years ago we played the Chiefs?
Yeah.
He got cooked.
You're right, he did.
He got cooked in that game. You know what I'm saying? So I have no fear with him coming to the AFC South. I have no fear with Tennessee giving him a deal. Obviously, I would have liked to see him come to the Colts. Everybody kept saying that was a potential landing spot, and we were in talks with him and stuff like that. But I was just kind of like, you know what? If we get the guy, we get the guy. If we don't, we don't. I like our young studs. I really do. And like you said, upcoming draft, I don't know which way we're going to go. Me personally, I got a funny feeling that Chris Ballard is going to surprise a lot of people in this draft.
Me too.
I don't think we sit at 15. I don't think we sit at 15. I honestly think we trade up because I know there's somebody that he is wanting bad. And I don't know if it's going to be offense or if it's going to be defense. But if somebody in this draft that he really wants bad and he doesn't think is going to be there, I think we trade up. But don't also rule out Chris Ballard trading back for more picks. He's known for that. He does. He's a genius when it's coming to the draft and getting more picks. You know what I'm saying? And selling more picks. He'd get your pick and then turn around and sell it to somebody else for something else. You know what I'm saying? So I think this is going to be a surprise draft. I think when they got us projecting to take a corner, I'm all for it. I'm all for taking Brock Bowers. I'm all for him trading up to get Marvin Harrison Jr. Anything that's going to make this offense or this defense better and put us in, next couple years potentially in talks of raising that Lombardi trophy, I'm all for it. So, like the Snead deal, like I said, like all Colt fans, I would have liked to see that deal go down. Obviously, we didn't think that he was worth $19 million a year. So he went to Tennessee. Hasta la vista. We'll see you twice a year. And
they're not winning the Super Bowl now, though.
And they're no. Like, so I'm not worried.
Yeah, I'm not worried either. I think, with Snead, my opinion, he's a lockdown corner, but I think what really sets him over the edge is his physicality, because he's a little bit of a bigger guy. That clip went viral of him pushing around Tyreek Hill, but you're facing Michael Pittman Jr., who's 6'3", 225.
Right.
I don't really see, Michael Pittman Jr. getting jammed at the line by Jerry Snead, let alone Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce isn't the most built guy, but he's 6'4".
Right.
Alec Pierce is not getting pushed around by Jerry Snead, on rundowns. But, I want to go over to the draft real quick. Just like you said, you think there's going to be a surprise coming. I do too. And, I feel like if there's no signing, because there's still, as we're recording this right now, it's March 29th. The draft is on April 25th. We have about a month to go. And we haven't really drafted. We haven't really signed any corners or safeties yet. And Chris Ballard at the owners meeting says that there's still work to do in that room. Like you said, Marcus, Julian Blackmon has been in talks with the Colts. We could re-sign him. We've been looking at other safeties to bring in. We also have Daniel Scott coming back, who people are really high on. I'm actually really excited to see Daniel Scott come in next year. I think that he can fully take Rodney Thomas's role. I think he's going to be pretty good. But it's just my opinion right now. If we go out and sign, let's just say a depth corner, somebody who's not really starter level or a fringe level guy, I think that pretty much guarantees you that Jones is going to be a starter, and then you're going to go offense in the draft, which, the offense is very good, but I think, you just need one more receiver, just one more. I think, for years now, you're just saying I need one. You need another receiver. You need another receiver. If you get one now, this could be the last time we ever need a receiver ever.
Right.
The tight end room, everybody's freaking out about the tight end, about Brock Bowers, and I think if he's there, you kind of have to take him. It's because he's more of a receiver too, receiving tight end. But if you don't take him, people are forgetting about Jelani Woods. Jelani Woods, I still have a lot of faith in Jelani Woods.
I love Jelani Woods.
I still believe in him. And last year I feel like Granson had a really underrated year. Granson, he had a few drops here and there, but Granson sometimes he had some clutch catches on third down, and he showed more than he ever had done in his career. So if you bring back Granson and Woods at tight end, and then let's just say you draft Brian Thomas Jr. At pick 15, or I don't really think Odunze is gonna fall, but the Colts really love Xavier Worthy. I wouldn't take him at 15 personally. That would probably be a trade back. But I feel like we're really gonna get a chance to see what's gonna happen draft wise. We're gonna get a really good idea after what happens soon in free agency, because like I said, there's still a month left. The Colts have still been talking to guys. I don't think that we go into the draft without another safety on the roster. I just don't think they're talking to Julian Blackmon right now for nothing. And then they also brought in Kareem Jackson, and then we've also reportedly reached out to Justin Simmons, the former Bronco. So I just don't see a way where we don't enter next month's draft without a safety. But I obviously offense would be great, but the first move that's going to happen, just like you said, Marcus, is really going to help our football team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And let's not forget about Drew Ogletree. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? Right before he got, in a little bit of that, trouble, during the season, he was really good in that passing game for us too. You know what I'm saying? Um, so I like the tight end room. I like what's going on right there. I mean, like you said, if Brock Bowers is there, yes, you got to take him at 15. You know what I'm saying? You just got to.
I'm
You
not up
know,
in arms though. You know what I mean? I'm not like you got to trade up for that guy. I'm more
right,
like
right.
if he's there, you take him.
Right. If he's there, take him. If not, it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I like our team as a whole. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, one or two pieces and we're there. You know what I'm saying? And we just got to hit on those pieces when we add them to the team. You know what I'm saying? So I'm real pumped about the draft. I actually just ordered my draft hat. So
Nice.
I'm real pumped about them. I can't wait. I know it's going to be a surprise. I know something's going to be an absolute shocker. I say like within the first 4 or 5 selections is going to be, you know, uh, some oh my god moments. What just happened here, type of deals that's going down. So I'm excited. I can't wait for the draft.
If you had, because I'm going to get to mine too. If you had, your number one player on the board, like a realistic prospect, because I know you're an Ohio State guy. Marvin Harrison. He would be number one on my board, but that's not looking too realistic right now. But who would be your number one, guy? Like you're sitting there at 15, he's still available. You want the Colts to take him.
Man. Are we talking any player,
Any,
receiver,
I
any?
mean, just something that's realistic. Like who do you think is gonna be there?
That's a. I mean, there's so many good prospects, man. I mean, um, realistic wise, I say you take, um, if he's there. Um, I would definitely take a corner. I would definitely take what's Arnold from
Alabama.
Alabama.
Yeah,
If he's there, realistic, there's no way you pass that guy up. There's no
that's what
way.
I'm saying. I was actually just going to get to that. I've been high on Terrion Arnold throughout the whole draft process. People on my Twitter can check it. I've been an Arnold guy, but I wouldn't be mad at Quinton Mitchell either.
Oh yeah,
But the
from
thing,
Toledo. Yes.
yeah, oh yeah, for sure. But the thing with Arnold to me is, I was talking to Rondo about this last episode. Ballard loves to draft these, uber athletic guys with like, you know, I don't want to say little to no technique, but like, their emphasis on their skill set is that they're athletic, and then the coaching staff tries to, refine the technique. But for me, Quinton Mitchell has a higher RAS score than Terrion Arnold. He's more of a freak. But Terrion Arnold, to me, you know, he's a guy where he's got it all in terms of technique. He's a cover guy. He's physical. He's also tall. He's a taller corner, 6'2", 6'3", bigger body guy. The only, knock on him is that he's not just like jump out the gym athletic like Quinton Mitchell is. And that's kind of my thing. I'm just kind of thinking like the trend has to stop at some point. We have to just get these guys who can just get off the line and cover, just good football players. Because me and Rondo were talking about this too last episode. Puka Nacua was a 5th-round pick last year. He tested terrible at the combine, but he ended up having 1,800 yards. You know what I mean? Like you just have to find players who are good at football, not these guys who are just off the wall athletic. You can even argue Kwity Paye was like that too. Kwity Paye, great athlete, great against the run, but his technique for swim moves and stuff like that. It's been a couple of years now, and he's still not a guy that gets 10 to 15 sacks a year.
Right.
He's a guy who gets you like say 7 and 8. He's been working with Robert Mathis. Now, not that hating on Kwity Paye at all. I think he's a good player. But it's just one of those situations where you've been waiting on this kid for a couple of years now. You've been banking on ceiling because Chris Ballard's drafting on ceiling. But at some point, I feel like Terrion Arnold this year, he's got a really high floor.
Mm-hmm.
And
sometimes it takes 3 years.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot of players peak at 3 years. You know what I'm saying? And then they go, it goes from there. I think this is the first year that Kwitty's actually been working with Robert Mathis. So we might see a significant change in Kwity Paye this year. His 5th-year option is up for this year too. So he's gonna want us to pick up that 5th-year option. So, but yeah, I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, besides Arnold, I mean, if we're going offense, I mean, my favorite prospect would probably be Brian Thomas Jr. And on the contrary to that point that I just put about high ceiling and floor, I would take Brian Thomas Jr. Because he wasn't necessarily asked to do much besides be a deep threat at LSU. And, the same was really done with Justin Jefferson. Justin Jefferson was used as a slot receiver, and people kind of thought that was all he could do at LSU. So he fell to the 21st pick. Nobody thought he would be the guy he is today.
Right.
With the LSU receivers, they're not really asked to do as much. So if, you bring them over to the Colts, you start throwing them inside, you start putting them at X on downs that Pittman is not in there. You got Brian Thomas. You could even move Pittman to the slot if you wanted to, because Pittman's good in the slot too. And then you still got Pierce as your Z. You got 6'4", 6'3", 6'4" on the outside. And then you got Mo Ali Cox if he's back with the team. Or you got Jelani Woods, who's 6'7". Or you got Ogletree, who's 6'5". If you're going with 6'4", 6'3", your offensive line, and then you got 6'5", 6'4". Like that's huge. And then your quarterback is also 6'4", 240. He's built like a running back. There's not going to be a team who can guard that, especially in terms of catch radius. Like you can just throw that up. You can just throw it up, and one of those guys is catching it. It just brings a great deep threat. So
which I think Mo is a lot better in the red zone.
I do too.
With that catch.
Yeah, I do too. Actually, a lot of people too, real quick, were hating on Mo. They were saying that he should get cut before the year started, but he was clutch in the red zone.
Yes.
Mo was pretty clutch in the red zone. But I'm almost on the train. I might get slandered for this. I'm almost on the train of, I'm actually on my board. I'm taking Brian Thomas over Brock Bowers if he's there, but that's just me though.
I'm doing the same thing.
Because just like I said earlier, I love Woods. Woods at the end of his rookie year was really starting to come on. That game against Pittsburgh, I think he had 8 for 80. I mean, that's everything you want to see in a tight end, in my opinion. He was getting it off the catch. Yard after catch, he was going. I mean, he was really, really good. And then obviously that game against Kansas City. That home opener, he caught 2 touchdowns. Like he's shown he can be good in the red zone. He's shown that he can do a little bit of everything. There's just not a big sample size just because he was hurt. But I feel like if you bring him back and you draft a receiver, I don't necessarily think there's a need for tight end, if he's healthy. So
I agree.
Yeah. But the draft, I think it's going to be a crazy draft. I mean, all of these mock drafts, as you can tell, I mean, they're trying to predict what people are going to need. And I think that, the top 10 is going to be wild because of all the trades. But there's a few teams in front of us, like, for example, the Saints. Like, every year, like, you have no idea what the Saints are going to do. You just have no idea. The Saints, like, for example, Ryan Ramczyk their offensive tackle, their right tackle is about to be out for the year due to some type of injury. Knowing the Saints, they'll draft a receiver or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or they'll draft a defensive lineman, or they'll draft a defensive back just because. There's just some teams like you just have no idea what they're gonna do. At least for the Colts, we have an idea of what we're gonna do. We're gonna go corner or offense. Some of the other teams like the Jets, they're probably gonna go offense. The Bears, they have 2 picks in the top 10, so we don't know what they're gonna do at pick 9 if they trade out of it. That could be a potential trade up partner right there since they have 2 top 10 picks. And the Bears are all about trading up. So, who knows? We could get one of those top 3 receivers there too, just like you said. In my opinion, though, in terms of trading up, I think the Colts are more prone to trade up from the second round. So I think that, just like I said, we love Xavier Worthy for some odd reason. I'm not high on Xavier Worthy from Texas. I just think he's pretty much kind of like Paris Campbell. I mean, he had a lot of drop issues at Texas. He knows how to maneuver himself, but he had a lot of drop issues. But, I think that if you take a corner at 15 and Worthy's there at, say, pick 27 or 28, I could see us trading with San Francisco to move back into the first round. I could see us trading with Kansas City to try and get back into the first round. And then you get your guy there, your wide receiver. I wouldn't hate that. Do you think a trade up from the second round would be possible?
I guess if the players there that they really want, I can see that happen. Knowing Chris Ballard, I don't think so. In my opinion, I think, like I said, all the fireworks is going to happen in that first round. And he's going to get the guy that's top of his draft board. I think everybody else just kind of falls in the place after that from the second round on down to the 7th round. So, but it's a possibility though. I'm not going to rule it out.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to rule it out either. I mean, personally, we're going to expect the unexpected this year. I think this is just my opinion. This could be one of the all-time great draft classes. So, I just think that people got to be patient, and we're just going to see what happens. I mean, the draft, I can't remember what year it was. It was what year was whatever year that was with Pat Surtain. I think it might have been 2021. I think 21. Mm-hmm. But that draft was great. I mean, even Michael Pittman's draft. I mean, in 2020. Yeah. I mean, that's looking like it's going to be an all-time draft. I mean, you got Justin Jefferson in this class. Michael Pittman's in that class. He's a franchise player. Ayuk is looking like a franchise player. Jonathan Taylor's in that class. Jalen Hurts was in that class. Joe Burrow was in that class. This is looking like this year like an all-time great class. So, with all these players, just like I said in the beginning of my monologue here, with all these players at premium positions like quarterback and offensive line, with say 3 or 4 tackles and 3 or 4 quarterbacks going in the first round, I mean that puts us in great position to just sit there and get what we want. Last year it actually turned out good in the second round because we traded back and we still got Juju. Because I wholeheartedly feel like if we would have kept where we were in the second round and not traded back, we still would have picked Juju.
Right.
He was always the pick because he's a hometown kid and we needed a corner. Yep. So I feel like this year we don't need to trade back, but I feel like a lot of Colts fans are going to be happy with who we draft. And I just want to state one thing for all the people overreacting real quick. The season doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't. We're not going into the season with room to be done. There's still room to be done. And I don't think people are saying that they don't like Brents or they don't like Jones. I feel like more people are forgetting about Flowers. It's just my opinion.
Right.
I feel like people forgot that he was a starting corner for 2 games. And, as I said earlier in the year, he kind of had some hiccups against Jacksonville, but I thought Ridley made some ridiculous catches, and they were lucky as hell because sometimes like the DB's hands are right here and like Ridley's right here, and he just like snatched it out of the air. And we saw later in the year, he did have 1,000 yards, but it was fraudulent. He had I want to say 30 to 35 more targets than Michael Pittman did, and he only had 100 less yards. And people are saying that he's better. You know what I mean? Like Dallas Flowers was playing well that game, and he played well against Houston too in that game in game 2. So I think if Dallas Flowers comes back, you can still draft a corner. I mean, Jones too, just like you said, we love Jones. Jones is a 7th round pick. He wasn't supposed to be that good last year. He was not. But think about it this way for some fans out here. If you draft Terrion Arnold or Quinton Mitchell or Kool-Aid McKinstry, any of those guys, Jalen Jones then becomes the best backup corner in the league. So God forbid anything happens to any of those guys. I mean, Juju is in and out of the lineup too because he was hurt. If Juju goes out, oh my gosh, Jalen Jones is a fill-in. We're never gonna have to experience Tony Brown against the Saints ever again. We're never gonna have to worry about that, which is why just maybe one more corner is needed. But people are just overreacting, in my opinion. I think that once the draft happens, people are gonna be fully acceptable of what's going on. But the season doesn't start March 1st. The season starts in late in September. It doesn't start in April. It doesn't start in March. L'Jarius Sneed is not going to suit up for Tennessee next week. If he's traded as he's not playing for us next week.
Right.
So it's just been a crazy Colts world, but I think we're all looking to the draft, and it should be a fun month leading up to it.
Absolutely, I agree. I think, like I said before, it's going to be a hell of a draft, and I think Chris Ballard is going to surprise a lot of people, and we're going to get better. So what I say to some of those Colts fans that that doesn't like Chris Ballard and doesn't like the direction the team is going in, just be patient, just relax. We'll be fine. Nobody expected us to win 9 games last year. So now all of a sudden you guys' expectations are just through the roof. Let's cut it out. Cut it out.
Yeah. I mean, I was telling people this too. I mean, I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but even if we get Sneed, like it's a low chance that we're going to the Super Bowl anyways.
Right.
I'm not saying that we don't have the potential to go to the Super Bowl, but I'm not saying that we don't have the potential to win, say 10, 11, 12 games. But on that same point, this is, technically we're finishing out AR's rookie year. Really, I mean, he's year 2, but he only played 3 games.
Right.
4 games, whatever. He didn't even play a full 16 games yet. So theoretically, he's still kind of a rookie. So in year 3, that's when I expect, Super Bowl aspirations. Lamar Jackson and the Ravens didn't have, crazy aspirations till year 2, year 3. But, the Colts, I know that the AFC is competitive and stuff like that. But there's nothing wrong with, having your own guys. There's nothing wrong with drafting your own talent. And there's still cap space left if we want to sign somebody. It's not like we have 0 cap space left. So that's my closing thoughts on the matter. I think Chris Ballard's been doing a great job. I don't think he's been doing a terrible job like everybody's saying. I didn't say he's doing an amazing job either. He's done his job in the sense of he put a priority on our guys' back, and that's all that's got to be said in my opinion. I think that it was just important to bring back the guys that got us over 500, and then you capitalize off of that.
Absolutely. And I want to say shout out to Anthony Richardson on his rehab.
Looking good.
Looking real good. Just Today, I think he threw over 40 passes, and they had a ton of zip on him. So big ups to him. Keep the grind going. Get better. We need you in September. So keep up the good work. Also, I like to say to the First and 56 fans, we love you guys. We want you to just continue to keep following us, giving us, our shout outs and everything, and keep listening to our YouTube, because we bring nothing but the best Colts football topics, draft, defense, offense, even the good with the bad. We bring it all to you. We give it all to you. So just keep it up. Keep listening to us, and we appreciate everything you guys do for us. With this podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to, just piggyback off of that. We've had some pretty loyal listeners now for years. Me and Rondo have been doing this for about I want to say 3 years now. It's probably our fourth season together. It's going to be our second with Marcus here. Actually, third season with Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just been a great ride, and just to say what I said or every year before the first game. We love coming out and meeting you guys. At the Colts games. I run into people. I personally run into people who are fans of the show. And it's also fun meeting people out in the Colts community. Other content creators and stuff like that. Like when I was at the first game last year, the home opener, I ran into K Weave, and K Weave is a great guy. Super humble dude. So shout out to K Weave. He's a crazy Colts fan. He puts out content. But it's just cool running into people. And it's super cool. Just meeting fans, and we got our loyal listeners, and it's just great having your guys' support, through all this stuff with Colts Nation, and we really tell it like it is. We don't, we're not out here to tell people, what they want to hear, especially right now, because a lot of the Colts Nation, they want Chris Ballard fired, but we're going to tell you how it really is, and not, it's not an emotional, thing. I personally feel like a lot of this was just people getting mad about the Snead trade. It was just people like that got emotional in their feelings, but now they're over it. You know what I mean? But
Right.
When it first dropped, people were so mad. But shout out to 156 Nation. Just keep listening to our show on all platforms. We're still up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Sideline Sports YouTube. Keep tuning in. And then obviously when we go live for future episodes on Twitter, just make sure to leave comments for us. Live comments on Twitter. We acknowledge you guys as live comments. Rondo, usually takes care of that, and we always have a great time interacting with people, on Twitter and YouTube. But that's gonna wrap us up. We're gonna be back to you guys pretty soon. Like we said, it's draft season. A draft is gonna be a month away. Just like Marcus said too, if there's a big move that comes before the draft, we'll have a show, talking about that news. But for now, this has been another episode of the first 56 podcast. Got myself, we got Marcus. Rondo couldn't be here, but he'll be on the next one, and we will see you guys on the next one.